My name is Daniel Miller. I'm 11 years old and I live with my parents in a small town outside of Asheville, North Carolina. Until that day, I was just an ordinary kid. I went to school, rode my bike with my friends, argued with my older sister and dreamed of being an astronaut. But everything changed on a rainy Friday afternoon. I don't remember the beat, not even the screams, not even blood. I only remember the darkness, a deep, absolute silence, as if I had been ripped from the world in the blink of an eye. When I woke up 14 days later, surrounded by strange faces and beeping machines, no one could explain what had happened, but I knew exactly where I'd been. I didn't ask for my mother. I didn't cry. I didn't even ask what had happened. I just whispered, my voice almost disappearing, "This is the true face of Jesus." And with my hand still shaking, I asked for paper and a pencil, and I started drawing. What I saw on the other side was not a dream. It wasn't imagination. It was more real than anything I've ever experienced in this world, and what he showed me completely changed my life. And maybe it will change yours too. But before continuing this story that will chill you to the core, comment below where you are watching. We want to know how far this message is reaching. And enjoy. Leave your like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any stories like this. Friday started like any other. The sky was cloudy, but no one expected this sudden storm. It was the end of school, and I was excited to get home, drop my backpack and play video games until my mum told me to stop. My father picked me up almost every day, but that afternoon he was late, so I decided to go back by bike. Just another 10 minutes of cycling and I would be home. It was down Pine Valley Street that everything happened. The rain started suddenly, thick and heavy. The asphalt became slippery. I tried to brake, but the bike skidded. Everything got out of control. A blue car came out of nowhere around the bend. I saw the headlights, and then nothing. They said I was thrown several meters, that I hit my head on the curb, that the bike was completely destroyed, but I don't remember. It's like my memory has been erased. What I know comes from what my parents told me afterwards. The despair, the ambulance, the doctors running through the hospital corridors. My mother said she screamed my name until her voice disappeared. Who wouldn't let anyone touch me in the emergency room? And when the doctors said I was in a coma, she collapsed on the floor. My father, he stood still, in shock, as if the world had stopped there. In the ICU, I was surrounded by tubes, machines, monitors. The doctors were honest. He might not wake up, and if he does, he might not be the same anymore. The word miracle appeared early, but no one dared to use it with conviction. With each passing day, hopes diminished. My vital functions remained, but my brain was silent. Outside, life went on, but inside that cold room, time seemed frozen. The most impressive thing, they say, is that my face was calm. There was no pain, there was no agitation, as if I was sleeping soundly, as if he were at peace. But what no one knew, not even the doctors, not my parents, was that I wasn't sleeping. I was somewhere else, a place where time does not exist, where the colors are too vivid to be described, where the pain just doesn't enter. That's where it all started. It was there that I saw something that would change everything forever. My mother didn't leave the hospital for even a second in the first few days. I slept on a hard chair next to my bed, holding my hand as if that could keep me anchored to life. She talked to me all the time, told me childhood stories, reminded me of important dates, sang the song she used to put me to sleep when I was a baby. "Come back to me, my son, please come back." She repeated this so many times with so much pain in her voice that even the nurses cried in silence. My father was different. He didn't cry in front of anyone. But when he thought he was alone, he would lock himself in the bathroom and collapse. I heard later that he spent whole nights sitting in the car in the parking lot, just looking at the steering wheel, trying to understand why that had happened. He felt guilt. He said that if he hadn't been late, if he had picked me up like he always did, none of this would have happened. Visits became routine. Grandparents, uncles, cousins, school friends. Everyone came and spoke to me as if I were listening. And indeed I was, but not in the way they imagined. Local media learned about the accident. An article appeared in the city newspaper. 11-year-old boy fights for his life after serious bicycle accident. This only increased the flow of people into the hospital, candles being lit, prayer chains forming. Entire churches began to pray for me. The doctors, although experienced, seemed divided. One of them even said, away from my parents, We are doing everything we can, but now it is up to God. That fell like a knife into my mother's heart, and even with the world crumbling around her, there were moments when she said something that no one understood. I feel like he's still here. I do. She was right. I was there, and at the same time, I wasn't. Far away, somewhere I can't describe, I felt everything, as if my soul were loose, floating between two worlds, and in that in-between something began to change. A light began to emerge, and a presence that was like nothing I had ever felt before began to approach. On the outside, I was just an unconscious boy, hooked up to machines, but inside, everything was different. There was no pain, there was no fear, there was silence, a deep, almost sacred silence. It was like I was in a place between sleep and eternity. At first it was just darkness, not that darkness that scares, but a welcoming darkness, like a mother's womb. I felt like something was watching me, not with eyes, but with presence, as if an immense consciousness were all around me, and within me at the same time. I was trying to understand where I was. I tried to remember the accident, my home, my school, but those memories came and went like smoke. And every time I tried to cling to the world before, something stronger pulled me into that silence. That's when I started hearing things. First, whispers, then voices. Soft, calm voices, saying words I didn't know but understood perfectly. He wasn't Portuguese, it wasn't English. It was as if the language was made of pure feeling. And then I started to see images, fragments, like memories of a life that wasn't mine, or maybe it was. I saw a golden field, children running, a woman with clear eyes who looked at me with absolute love, a city made of light, a river that shone. Each vision came with an indescribable feeling, peace, but not an ordinary peace. It was something so deep that it seemed to rebuild me from the inside, as if every broken part of me was being touched by something divine. Meanwhile, my body outside remained motionless. Doctors wrote down numbers, adjusted devices, exchanged serious looks, but no one knew what was happening inside me. Science calls it unconsciousness. Some say they are just impulses from the brain, but what I experienced does not fit into any medical explanation. I was moving away from Earth. I felt it, and yet he was not afraid. There was a destiny waiting for me, and he was getting closer and closer. That's when the darkness began to shift. A soft glow began to appear in the distance, first as a point, then as a path, a portal. And I knew, without anyone having to tell me, it was time to move on. The glow that appeared in front of me was like no light I had ever seen. It didn't hurt my eyes, it didn't burn. It was a living light, warm, loving. It pulsed, as if it had a heart. And the more I watched her, the more I felt her calling me, not with words, but with a silent certainty. Come. Walking towards her felt natural, even without legs, without a body. I moved by intention, by desire. And as I got closer, what was just a point became a path, a corridor of light floating in the middle of an immense void. But it wasn't scary. It was as if the universe had stopped just to let me pass. On the other side, something was waiting for me. As I followed, I began to hear sounds, not normal noises, but music, a melody so pure that it seemed made of longing and joy at the same time. Each note touched something inside me, as if it spoke directly to my soul. It made me cry, but not with sadness. It was like remembering home after being away for a long time. Then I saw shapes appearing around the path, beings made of light, with soft faces and deep eyes. None of them scared me. On the contrary, I felt like they knew me, that were waiting for me, and that they loved me before I was even born. One of them extended his hand, not a physical hand, but a gesture, an invitation, and I went. I went through the portal. On the other side, everything was different. The air seemed to vibrate. Colors had sound, emotions had form, and time didn't exist. I could remember everything at once, feel the past, present, and future as if they were one. There was no pain, there was no rush, there was only truth. And at the center of it all there was a presence, something great, powerful, and yet incredibly close, as if it were part of me. I didn't see a throne, there were no kneeling crowds, but I knew that I was approaching something sacred, and that presence watched me with a love that no words can explain. My heart knew before I even saw it. I was about to meet him, The glow that appeared in front of me was like no light I had ever seen. It didn't hurt my eyes. It didn't burn. It was a living light, warm, loving. It pulsed as if it had a heart. And the more I watched her, the more I felt her calling me. Not with words, but with a silent certainty. Come. Walking towards her felt natural, even without legs, without a body. I moved by intention, by desire, and as I got closer, what was just a point became a path, a corridor of light floating in the middle of an immense void. But it wasn't scary. It was as if the universe had stopped just to let me pass. On the other side, something was waiting for me. As I followed, I began to hear sounds, not normal noises, but music, a melody so pure that it seemed made of longing and joy at the same time. Each note touched something inside me, as if it spoke directly to my soul. It made me cry, but not with sadness. It was like remembering home after being away for a long time. Then I saw shapes appearing around the path, beings made of light, with soft faces and deep eyes. None of them scared me. On the contrary, I felt like they knew me, that were waiting for me, and that they loved me before I was even born. One of them extended his hand, not a physical hand, but a gesture, an invitation. And I went. I went through the portal. On the other side, everything was different. The air seemed to vibrate. Colors had sound, emotions had form, and time. Time didn't exist. I could remember everything at once, feel the past, present, and future as if they were one. There was no pain. There was no rush, there was only truth. And at the center of it all there was a presence, something great, powerful, and yet incredibly close, as if it were part of me. My heart knew before I even saw it. I was about to meet him. Have you ever had a similar experience? A dream, a feeling, something you can't explain? Share with us in the comments. Maybe your story will touch someone the same way mine did. I didn't know the sky had a smell, but it had. It was like the mix of flowers I've never seen with the smell of rain falling on warm earth. Everything there seemed alive, conscious. The trees watched me tenderly. The leaves sparkled like crystals, and the ground seemed to be made of solid clouds that welcomed my light steps. Around me, there was a peace so profound that not even the silence of earth could reproduce it. But it wasn't just beauty, it was purpose. Each color had a reason. Every sound seemed tailor-made for my soul. There was no fear, there was no sadness, just a feeling that I was finally where I always belonged. I soon realized that I was not alone. Beings of light accompanied me. They didn't have names or faces like ours, but I recognized them with my heart. It was like meeting friends I never knew existed, but who were always with me. Some seemed to smile, others just watched. But they all radiated something impossible to describe. Pure love, without judgment, without conditions. They showed me places that I cannot explain with human words. A field where stars were born from the ground. A river of light that sang as it flowed. A garden where each flower told a story from my past, even those that I myself had forgotten. And then I understood. I was in a place where everything made sense, where every pain in life had a purpose, where the questions that torment us here were answered not with words, but with deep understanding, straight to the soul. But there was something, or someone, that was still waiting for me. A greater presence, a center, a source. I didn't see it directly, but I felt that everything in that world emanated from him. It was as if everything was alive because of him. And the closer I got, the more I understood. I was about to find whoever created all this. And in some way, whoever created me did too. The presence I had felt since the beginning was now becoming stronger and stronger. It was like a wave of heat that didn't burn, but healed. A love that filled the air, penetrated my being, and made me completely forget any pain, fear, or guilt I had ever felt. It was then that he appeared, not like an ordinary man, not with golden crowns or thrones, but like light, a light that had shape, and within that light, there were eyes, the deepest eyes I've ever seen. They looked at me with such sweet intensity that my heart almost couldn't take it. It was as if he saw everything, absolutely everything about me, and yet he smiled. Jesus. I didn't need anyone to say the name. You knew. It was as if my spirit had known him forever. And in that moment there was no doubt. He was real. He was love. He was true. He didn't speak with words, but his voice echoed inside me like a pure, clean, direct thought. And when he said my name, Daniel, something inside me fell apart. I cried, but not out of sadness. I cried because I understood that, even though I was small, even though I failed, even though I was forgotten in a hospital, I was known. I was loved. He extended his hand, and I played. The touch was not physical, but it went through me. It showed scenes from my life, moments I thought no one had seen. A drawing I made for my mother when I was 5 years old. The time I hugged my father after a fight. Even the thoughts I never said to anyone. Everything was there, nothing was lost. And he showed me something more. Images of people I didn't know yet. Paths that I had not yet followed. A mission that was waiting for me. It wasn't a punishment. It was a calling. An invitation to experience something greater. And then he asked, without sound, but with complete clarity, "Do you want to go back?" My heart stopped. I didn't want to leave there. Who would like it? But I also knew there was something unfinished in the world, something only I could do. And at that moment I knew the choice was mine. They say that the eyes are the window to the soul, but the eyes of Jesus were the very soul of the universe. When I looked inside them, I didn't just see one person. I saw everything. I saw the beginning and the end. I saw pain and healing, chaos and order, silence and music. But most of all, I saw love. A love so pure it was almost impossible to bear. I felt like I was being stripped completely, not of my body, but of everything I was hiding from myself. He looked at me like no one had ever looked at me. Neither does my mother, neither does my father, not even myself in front of the mirror. It was a look that didn't judge but knew, a look that didn't demand but understood, a look that said without words, "I was with you through every tear you hid, through every fear you didn't tell anyone, through every mistake you thought would drive me away. I saw it, I was there, and I still am." It was at that moment that I realized how much I had carried alone, even though I was just a child. Little pains, insecurities, fears that I couldn't name, all of that appeared before him. But instead of condemnation, what I received was total acceptance, a hug that crossed the soul without needing arms. He showed me my life in a way I had never seen, not as a sequence of mistakes and successes, but as a sacred journey. Every failure, every tear, every laugh, it was all part of something bigger. And most impressively, even my worst moments were covered by something invisible that I now understood. Grace. Every second in that gaze I felt parts of myself being restored, emotional wounds closing, blames being dissolved, fears losing power. It was like I was being recreated, purified, resignified. And then, Jesus did something I will never forget. He smiled. But it was no ordinary smile. It was the smile of someone who knows exactly what you will become. The smile of someone who believes in you more than you believe in yourself. And at that moment I understood that that look wasn't just for me. It was for all of us. Every human being who ever lived. Every soul lost. Every tired heart. And he said inside me, "You will come back." And when you tell what you saw, many will remember who they really are. I wanted to stay. I wanted to stay more than anything. But I understood that that look, that love, was not to be kept. It was supposed to be taken, spread, shared. And that's when everything started to change. After that look, I thought nothing could surprise me anymore. But he was wrong. Jesus led me down a path that seemed to be made of pure energy. There was no ground, no sky, just moving light, as if everything was alive, breathing along with me. All around us, scenes appeared like open windows in space. And then, he started to show me. First, I saw my own life, as if I were watching a movie, but with every emotion amplified to the maximum. Simple moments, me playing with my dog in the backyard, hugging my mother after a fever, crying silently in the room after a fight. It was all there, recorded with a perfection that defied all logic. But what touched me most were not the great victories or the happy days. It was the small gestures of love that I didn't even remember. A smile I gave to a sad colleague, a toy that I shared without thinking, a tear that I wiped from my sister's face. And then he said to me, "Nothing that is done with love is forgotten. Every gesture echoes in eternity." Then views changed. I saw people I didn't know yet. Some were crying. Others were on the verge of giving up. And then I saw myself older, talking to them, telling my story, and as they did so, something inside them changed. It was as if an invisible seed was planted. Jesus showed me my purpose. It wasn't just about me. It was about everyone who still needed to remember that there is something beyond pain, that there is hope even at the bottom of the abyss, that even when all seems lost, there is still a plan, bigger, deeper, more beautiful than we can imagine. He showed me the world, but not like we see in the news. I saw wars, yes, I saw injustices, but I also saw hands reaching out, people forgiving each other, children surviving, people who, even in the midst of chaos, still chose to love. And that's when I understood. Light is not the absence of darkness. It's the courage to shine even within it. And Jesus looked at me again. You saw it. Now you need to tell it. You need to remind the world who I am and who they are. At that moment, something in me lit up. A calm, serene, but powerful type of fire. It was the conviction that my life would no longer be the same, and that I had a mission, to return. Staying was so tempting. The peace that enveloped me was like nothing I had ever felt. Here there was no rush, pressure, fear, or pain. Here everything made sense. And Jesus was there. His love was not a promise, it was presence, it was certainty. But he looked at me with an expression that mixed tenderness and seriousness, as if to say, I know you want to stay, but the world still needs you. And then he showed me my parents. I saw my mother kneeling at my bedside, holding my cold hand, whispering prayers through tears. I saw my father with his face buried in his hands, outside the ICU, struggling not to collapse. I saw my grandparents, my friends, and even people I didn't even know, all cheering, praying, believing, waiting. And Jesus asked inside me, are you ready to leave them now? That cut me off. I wanted to stay so much, but how could I deny that love that was still waiting for me there? How can I abandon someone who still needed me? And, more than that, how could I keep everything I had seen just for myself? Staying was comfort, returning was courage. And it was there, at that point between the divine and the human, that I realized, true love is not what seeks rest. It is what chooses sacrifice. It's the one who returns even with a broken heart, just to extend a hand to those who are still in the dark. I took a deep breath, or maybe I just felt the decision within my soul, and I thought, yes, I'll be back. Jesus approached. His look was no longer dismissive, it was a mission. He touched my chest with the palm of his hand. An immense light enveloped me. I felt my body again, the pains, the weight, the cold, the distant voices, the sounds of machines. But before everything went dark again, I heard one last sentence like an eternal whisper that would echo inside me for the rest of my life. You didn't come back by chance. You came back out of love. And then I fell. I fell like someone coming back from a deep dive, like someone waking up from a dream, but with the certainty that what they experienced was not a dream at all. Waking up was like emerging from the bottom of an ocean. At first, everything was cloudy. I heard a constant whistle, muffled voices, a strange smell of alcohol and electronics, and suddenly, light, lots of light, but not the same light as before. This one was cold, artificial, human. My vision was blurry, but I could make out faces around me. Masks, lab coats, eyes wide. The movement was urgent, almost panicked. One of the doctors dropped the medical record on the floor. Another uttered a restrained curse. I was waking up. After 14 days in a coma, my body was finally responding. The heartbeat rose. The machines began to beep irregularly. Nurses ran. A code has been triggered. My mother was called. My father followed, his heart racing. But I was calm. Still weak, my eyes searched for something, a certainty. And when I saw my mother's face coming through the door disfigured from crying, my heart seemed to remember what I had to do. She ran to me, hugged me gently, afraid of hurting me, and then, with my voice still weak, I whispered, "This is the true face of Jesus." The silence in the room was immediate. Doctors looked at each other. My mother froze. My father, standing in the doorway, swallowed hard. They thought I would say something common, something like, "Where am I? What happened?" But no, I said that firmly, with conviction. And then I asked, "Paper and pencil, please." I could barely hold it straight, but my hand felt like it was being guided by something bigger. I started drawing, Every trace came from within. Every line was clear, as if it was just being revealed. The face that appeared on the paper was not the one in the paintings I had seen in the church. He was not European, not idealized. He was human, deep, unforgettable. When I finished, I gave the drawing to my mother. She looked and started crying, but it wasn't crying out of pain. It was something different, a cry that came from the soul. My father took the paper next. He was silent for long seconds. Then he sat on the chair next to the bed and held my hand tightly. "Did you see him?" he asked. I just shook my head and smiled, a tired smile, but full of peace. That night, something changed at the hospital. Doctors commented quietly in the corridors. Nurses came to my room and observed me with respect. One of them said, "I'm not religious, but there's something about you, something that I can't explain." And there really was. I had returned, but a part of me would never be the same. The phrase I said when I woke up, "This is the true face of Jesus," didn't just stay within the walls of the hospital room, she echoed. It started as a whisper among doctors and nurses. Then he passed through the corridors, reached the reception, reached other wings, and before we knew it, it was already on social media in the city. My mother took a photo of the drawing and posted it with a simple text. After 14 days in a coma, my son woke up saying he saw Jesus, and he drew what he saw. He said it was real, that it was true, and I believe it. She didn't expect anything, just wanted to share. But something inexplicable happened. In less than 24 hours, the image already had thousands of likes. Comments came from all corners of the country, and even from abroad. People said they felt something when they looked at that face. Some said they had dreamed of that same look. Others, who had cried without knowing why. There were skeptics, of course. People who said everything was an invention, that I had seen some film, some image on the internet. But whoever was there, whoever saw my condition, whoever knew my family, knew. That couldn't be explained so easily. The hospital was contacted by newspapers, TV stations, and YouTube channels. Everyone wanted to hear the story. Everyone wanted to understand how a boy discredited by doctors had come back to life with such a direct, powerful message. But the most impressive thing was not the sudden fame. That's what started to happen to people. A nurse who took care of me every day went back to church after seeing the drawing. A doctor, known for being completely skeptical, asked to talk to me alone and left the room in tears. One of the ambulance drivers who rescued me said that, upon seeing my story, he decided to reconcile with his son after years of not speaking to him. It was as if something had been unlocked, as if my return was not just physical, but spiritual, as if the sentence that came out of my mouth had come from somewhere else, from a place that cannot be explained with logic, only with faith. My father hung the drawing on the living room wall. Every day he stops in front of it, spends a few minutes in silence, and then takes a deep breath. I've never seen him pray so much. My mother, who always believed, now believes even more, and I know I'm here for a reason, and that face wasn't just for me, it was for everyone. After I came back, nothing was the same. I'm not talking about visible miracles, nor constant divine appearances. I'm talking about perception, presence, of a new type of consciousness that has never left me. Every day now has a different meaning. Every person I meet, every word I say, everything seems charged with a greater purpose. I began to understand that the real miracle was not just coming back to life, but what that return did to me and to others. My story went around the world. The video that my parents recorded with my first sentence and the drawing surpassed millions of views. People came from far and wide just to look at that paper. Some played carefully, as if they were in front of something sacred. Others cried in silence. Some just closed their eyes and said, "Now I believe." But what moves me most are not the numbers nor the shares. That's what I get from people. Letters, messages, testimonials. People who have faith again. That came out of depression. Who forgave someone after years. Who decided to give life another chance. They say, "It was because of your story." But I know, it's not about me. It's about what he planted in me. Today I understand that seeing the face of Jesus was not a gift just for me. It was a mission. He showed me what's on the other side, yes. But more than that, he showed me the value of now, of life, from pain, of forgiveness, of compassion. Because true heaven is not only after death. Heaven begins when you understand that you are here for love, that even in suffering there is a chance for transformation, that even in darkness we can still be light for someone. Many ask if I would go back to that place, and the answer is simple: yes, I would go back. But today, I know that my place, for now, is here. To tell, to remember, to wake up. If you got here, it wasn't by chance. Maybe this story is what you needed to hear today. Maybe it's the reminder that there is still something bigger taking care of everything, that you are seen, known, loved, just like I was. If this story touched you in any way, write in the comments, "I believe it too," and share with someone who needs to feel this today. You can be the light on someone's path. Feeling something different while listening to this story, a chill, a presence, a silent touch on the heart, is no coincidence. It is a sign that God has spoken to you, and when He speaks, it is because He has a purpose. Your arrival here is already part of this plan. When something reaches us so deeply, it is because we are part of something bigger. Subscribe to the channel and continue this journey. There are still stories waiting for you, ready to touch your soul in a unique way. When something truly touches our soul, we feel like sharing it. So leave your like. It's a simple way to spread this transformation to even more people. The next video is already on your screen. Click now and continue this journey. It may be that what is to come will touch you in an even deeper way.